see how it goes. Okay, live stream's going, and welcome everyone to another town hall. Let me share my screen, get some notes up here for you. Okay.
Timmy, I don't recognize you, but I'm John Shull. I'm co-founder of e-NABLE, and it's nice to see a new face here.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, welcome. Maybe just because I don't think, unless I'm mistaken, I don't believe any of us here have met you. So you want to give us a quick introduction and let us know how you found us and your background maybe and what your interests are?
All right, sure. I'm Timmy Osborne. I go to DuPont Manual in Louisville, Kentucky, and we recently started 3D printing the Phoenix V2 hands, and I was just interested in learning more. So
Excellent. Okay, yeah. So you're one of the students that posted recently on the hub. It was so nice to see your introductions and photos. Thank you for sharing that. And I see that Amy Chen has joined. I believe she's a fellow student. Is that right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Welcome. Good to have you both here. Just so that you know, because I don't want either of you to be disappointed here, you are more than welcome to hang out with us and contribute to these. The town hall meetings are usually a little bit more oriented towards kind of the operational aspects of the community. We're going to be talking about some of the outreach efforts and trying to form partnerships and some of the infrastructure work that we're doing. And like I said, you're absolutely welcome to join us for that discussion. But if you're looking more for guidance and how to get started and things like that, we also have a new members meetup that meets monthly, and that's at a different time, and that's geared specifically to address those sort of new member questions and help get you in the right direction. But like I said, you're completely welcome to join us here, and we'll just be going through our usual topics, and everyone's very welcome to contribute. We welcome all your input on these things.
All right, thank you.
All right, so
Timmy and Amy, I was just going to say that before you bail, if you bail, one of our regular topics is the calendar of meetings that will be of interest. So stick around for that. But
yeah, well, that'll be very early.
We are also always looking for new leaders for the community. So
that's right. And we're going to talk about some of those here. There are definitely areas where help is needed. We have a number of projects, very important ones this year that we have not yet found people to help kind of take the lead on. So if you're looking for maybe getting involved in ways other than just making devices, stay tuned. All right, so quick review of action items. John, I don't think this one is a priority, but we have a note here about writing up something about the fiscal sponsorship agreement. Not a problem. Just going to leave it here as a reminder. Same thing for the next one. I know Adam is working on reaching out to Brent Hollers. I don't think we've had any success yet. Is that right, Adam?
That's right.
Okay. We'll leave it on there, but I don't want to pester you about this every week, so I might take it off eventually and just let you kind of monitor that on your own. Yeah. And then the rest of these are for me, and the only one I've had time to get to is the first one. I did draft a letter for the Littleton, Colorado chapter. Most of you here have seen it. We will be talking about that shortly here, discussing how to proceed. The rest of these I need more time on, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. So these are sort of the metrics that we track on a weekly basis. I don't think there's really much to call attention to here. Just kind of shows for those here that are new, some of our key metrics that we track over time, how many members we have on the hub, how many new people joined over the last week, and sort of the different post activities, what's happening on e-NABLE Web Central, various help desk tickets that we're handling. And maybe of most importance is the lower right corner. We do have $36,000, almost $800 available in the e-NABLE fund, and that is available for anyone in the community to use for worthy initiatives and projects, ideally projects that will provide some benefit to the entire community, as opposed to, we don't usually use it for things like, hey, I need a new 3D printer or things like that. It's more, projects that would address some need that the community has ideally, and there's a process for putting forth proposals on a platform called Lumio, and the community can vote, and if the voting approves it, then it gets funded. So for our new members here, just know that that is available, and we can provide more details as needed. There are a lot of new posts from the hub this week because we didn't have time to get into this last week, and Sarah added some new ones for us. I hate to put this off again, but I don't want to run out of time on the topics that I want Adam to be able to cover. So I am going to skip this again just for now. And if we have time later in the meeting, we'll come back to this and look at these posts. We don't yet have the full calendar of events for the coming month of April. Sarah is working on that, but I do know that the next meeting we have coming up is the chapter leaders meeting, which will be on the 10th of April. That's a Monday. And then on the third Friday will be the one that I mentioned, the new members meetup, which is also an educational sort of focused meeting. So that'll be perfect for you guys, Timmy and Amy, and any of the others from your team that would like to join. So let's see, third Friday would be what? Let me get into April here. I guess that would be Friday is it the 21st? Yeah, that sounds right. So that would be Friday the 21st. And I hope you guys will join again for that, because we'll talk about other projects and other opportunities to get involved there as well. But I'd like to get right into the discussion topics. We have one follow-up from last week that we have to attend to, and then I'm going to hand things over to Adam. So last week we talked about a situation involving the Littleton, Colorado chapter, and their chapter leader, their current chapter leader is no longer an active member of the community. And so we were thinking about reaching out to them to say, hey, we really need to have you pick a new chapter leader so that we can keep you as an active chapter on our list. But as we were looking into it, we found that actually the only web page they have listed is their Facebook page. I could not find any other websites, and their Facebook page has had no posts in almost 3 years. It was April of 2020 when they last posted. So Rick, we recently sent out a chapter audit request, and we did that twice. Did this chapter ever respond with data for you?
No, we actually sent it out 3 times,
Okay.
and there was no response from anybody that I'm aware of, unless it went to someone else.
No, we can
I did not
assume
see it.
it didn't. So then, this kind of takes us back to, we were working on this back when Ben Rubin was here, and John, help me out here. I don't know if we ever really decided on an actual policy. I know the idea was that we were going to send out this chapter audit request asking them for data, and that if we didn't get any response after so many attempts, that we were going to go ahead and make a chapter inactive. And I think there was also a policy in there about needing to have recent activity showing. I don't remember what the specific, term was, but I know it was less than 3 years. Did we ever kind of come up with an actual documented policy on this? I don't recall. John, do you recall? Am I coming through, guys? Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think John might be AWOL.
Okay, John might be having bandwidth issues then. Well, as best I can recall, I don't think we ever firmed up that policy, but I do recall that the intent was that they need to have, fairly recent activity showing on their website and or Facebook page, and that they need to respond to those annual requests for information. And since neither of those things has happened, I think we probably need to just go ahead and mark this chapter as inactive. As soon as, we'll go ahead and send out the letter that we've put together, along with an invitation to please go ahead and reapply, and we'd be happy to get them right back on the map. We just need to, I think, have them go through that process again. Does everyone feel comfortable with that approach, or should we talk about other options?
My
think that's a good
understanding
approach.
was that was how we were going to do the audit. I mean, the
Okay.
audit was basically when we discussed the audit, we talked about doing this not specifically for any one chapter, but all chapters.
Right.
That's how
Okay.
we were going to dig out the ones that were no longer either active or responding.
Yeah.
So,
My 2 cents would be that we not just target this one chapter, but I think any chapter that has responded, I think we just loop into the same.
I think that's the intent, Adam. This is just one that we have to deal with because of the
Oh,
fact
no,
that
for sure. I just mean
they don't
that.
have an active chapter leader. But I think with Rick being the chapter manager, I think even if we never finalize that policy, I think, Rick, you're probably in the best position to make a call on this. So I think we should go ahead and do that. Let's just mark them as inactive. We'll look again at that letter and maybe adjust the wording just a little bit to make sure that that's explained in there, and that we're giving them an open invitation to submit a new chapter formation request, and hopefully we'll get them back on the map. So if anybody have any concerns or opposition to this?
Well, we were also doing a bounced email.
Okay.
So what we were doing was part of the audit. If we had bounced emails from every single person from any chapter, we'd go secondarily, we'd go to the Facebook page to see if anything had happened, and we try to contact them there. If nobody got us from there, we were talking about setting them as temporarily inactive until we could figure out who to contact. So
And you're saying that when you email the address that they have listed as their chapter address, those emails are getting bounced?
We had some emails bounce and some of them did not respond.
Okay.
I have to go back to my records to find out which ones actually were bounced.
Okay.
And which ones were no response. But we pay more attention to the bounced ones, because if that just means the email's not there anymore.
Exactly.
And we've been trying to remove those from the chapter list with a notation of the bounced emails in case there was a misspelling or something of that nature.
Got it. Okay, so I think what we'll do, if it's okay with you, Rick, is I'll go ahead and just double check the wording on the letter that we drafted, make sure that it's okay. I'll ask you to go ahead and send it as the chapter manager. And I do have, I don't know that I could identify everyone, but I have 5 names here of people that are in that chapter, the chapter members, other than the prior chapter leader. So I could send you those email addresses, and maybe we just kind of CC all of them, and one of them will get it and share it with the appropriate people,
Yeah, let's also watch and see if any of the ones you have are different than mine and bounce for some reason. I mean,
Sounds
we
good.
did have this as an automated thing, and as you know, without any automation, something could go wrong. So the checks
course.
and balances, anything that you guys can do would be awesome. I mean,
Sounds good. So I will take that as an action item to finalize letter and send to Rick with email addresses for little.
what I will do then is I'll just include that with the audit.
Exactly. Yeah, it should be
Yeah.
handled as part of the audit process. Yes. Very good. Okay, so now let's move on, and I want to turn things over now to Adam. Adam, I copied all of your notes from this morning in here, so
great.
have at it.
Okay, cool. Well, hi, everyone. For those of you who are new to our group, my name is Adam Jennings. I'm a physical therapist and the quasi-official outreach director or outreach coordinator, if you prefer. For
Pretty official at this point, Adam.
Fair enough. So I've been really interested in solving a couple of problems. Well, in capitalizing on a couple of opportunities, we'll put it that way, that e-NABLE has to expand its reach and impact. If you're not already familiar with this issue, the real sticking point for a lot of people new to the e-NABLE community is that there's generally an expectation that you're going to hop in and there's going to be a huge backlog of potential recipients that have a huge need for devices to be printed, which is not currently the case. There are millions of amputees worldwide that don't have ready access to prosthetics and orthotic services, and you're going to hear me refer to that as PMO services for this call and future calls. But right now, because e-NABLE is primarily, not exclusively, but certainly during these town hall meetings, primarily US centric, really we're butting up against the sort of existing prosthetics infrastructure that, that exists in sort of commercial prosthetics industry, which is really filling most of the need in the US. Now, I think there are gaps that we could do a better job of addressing, but most of my efforts have been to identify pockets of potential recipients and establish more consistent pipelines so that people in this community have more to do. So that kind of brings us to my outreach efforts for the past couple of weeks. Obviously, we didn't have a chance to run through this last week, given the more pressing items that we covered then. But I want to just sort of walk down this list. Let's see. Let me zoom in on your list there, Jeremy. All right. So I have been prioritizing meeting with P&O leaders for the past month or so. And I've had 2 meetings with leaders in the field. And I've got one coming up that I'm pretty excited about next week. Michael Leach is a recently retired processist in Washington State. He and I had a really productive conversation about how e-NABLE can better position itself as a sort of part of the fabric of the US healthcare system. Not being a healthcare provider ourselves or an organization that produces officially recognized medical products is a bit of a hurdle for us. It opens up a lot of doors and frees us from some restrictions, but it also kind of shuts us out from getting to the table to talk to some of the leaders in this field. So we had a pretty productive conversation. I got a number of interesting ideas that came from that conversation that I think would warrant more discussion further on. For now, let me just skip down to Dr. Gracie Finko. Dr. Finko is a PhD from Baylor down in Texas. She formerly worked in your neck of the woods, Jeremy, at the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab in Chicago, where she worked as a prosthetist. She now is, in addition to her work as a faculty member at Baylor, she does outside program evaluation for the Amputee Coalition. So she has a pretty stunning resume. She and I had a really exciting conversation, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, so I will just say that just generally, that there is a perception in the prosthetics community that there is sort of an old guard which was very loath to adopt additive manufacturing 3D printing techniques. And there are newer prosthetists coming in, kind of taking their place, who are very much more on board with the idea of what e-NABLE does. And I think that we will find that the environment is much more amenable to coming to the table with us. Than it was maybe when we initially founded it 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago when some additional efforts were made. So I'm very excited to partner with her. She has some really, really great ideas about how we can engage in research studies through Baylor, and how she could maybe Shanghai some students into working with our members to produce some papers, and also help us to develop some guidelines to be a little bit more in line with some clinical standards that I think would be a benefit not only to our recipients, but to our members in terms of raising everyone to a sort of baseline standard for how we approach and deliver devices. It's pretty exciting stuff. I'm going to pause there because I realize I've covered a lot. If there are any comments or questions.
Sounds great.
Great, Adam. We're in hazardous to your health. I've had you bronzed. I think it's really good.
Okay. And then next week, I'm meeting with Dr. Taiwo Akinsanya. He's a prosthetist in the actually, it might not be doctor. I need to double check his credentials. Not that it matters, but he's the founder of Dynalim Technologies in Nigeria. I think that this would be a huge opportunity to not only expand our relationships with prosthetists, but also there is an enormous need for just material and devices in this region. So I think that we could potentially, through Taiwo, we might have a really large opportunity for members of our community to start printing a lot more devices. And I think that the thing that's kind of exciting, I've been for the past month or so trying to build up my LinkedIn presence, which is something that I have been allergic to in the past. But I'm trying to throw myself into it a little bit more. I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But it has already yielded pretty much all of these connections that I've made are people that I met through LinkedIn. So it's been pretty exciting. Yeah, so I'll be meeting with Taiwo next week and we'll talk more about that. There's one more individual who is a loud voice, and I think a good voice in the prosthetics community, who is not on this list. It's Mr. Brent Wright. He's a prosthetist who is based, oh my gosh, where is he based? I don't recall. But he is really active on LinkedIn. He does a ton of 3D printing, as well as like integrated bionics with 3D printing. And he's kind of my white whale at the moment. He's someone that I'd really like to kind of bring to the table to get his insight. Yeah, he's got like thousands of followers online, and he posts really cool media content. So I'd like to get his insight too. Beyond that, I've made some interesting connections outside of the prosthetics community. John, you were on that email chain with Mr. Sebastian Schmidt out at PP Print in Hamburg. He has the survey where he's trying to get some more insight about how a corporation, well, not corporation, but an organization could serve individuals in the developing world with 3D printing. And I offered him my insights. Obviously, that's very near and dear to my heart. But John, it looks like you have something you want to say.
I'm just going to say that all of these people you're talking about sound like they would be great people to invite to some of our monthly meetings.
Yep.
And you might talk to them and Sarah about finding the right slot and opportunity.
Yep. I wanted to mention that in just a minute. So Dr. Finko is one who has already agreed to join one of our upcoming town halls next month. And then Stan Hudson, who I'm going to talk about in a moment here, is another great one. And Chad Lehman with Makers Making Change is another who I think would be, has already agreed to present his insight for what it is he does with the Neil Squire Institute. So yeah, lots of opportunity here for some exposure. Speaking of Chad, he's the innovation director at Makers Making Change. He's based up in Canada, as is the organization itself. They are, I'm going to go and call them a sister organization to e-NABLE. It's not official, but I think that philosophically we're very closely aligned. They do a lot more in the line of assistive technology, specifically working on switches for individuals with disabilities. And it's very similar to what we're recently trying to do, Jeremy, by partnering with ATPs. Those are, for our new folks, the assistive technology programs that are state-run programs in every single state and US territory. What I'm trying to do there is establish a state champion that is one e-NABLE member or chapter assigned to each state and territory's ATP to try to get a better handle on how we can not only supply devices to people who are currently paying a small nominal fee for these simple tools, things like bag holders and key turners and door openers, things like that, wheelchair attachments. But also, I think there's a really big chance to offer a lower threshold for entry for people who are new to 3D printing. Some, you know, the hands can be a little bit complicated, but these devices are really simple prints that can have a big impact in the lives of people who need them.
Adam, if you don't mind me interjecting,
yeah,
I have another.
No, please do.
There's another interesting connection that kind of goes with this one a little bit through an odd chain of events. So as you mentioned, Makers Making Change is tied in with that assistive technology partnership that we've been working on and expanding. And I mentioned this before, when I did a blog article about that, I also found and featured a curriculum, a free online curriculum that Makers Making Change developed in partnership with another organization called Print Lab. And they have a whole curriculum for assistive technology, and it's available for free to anyone, which I shared in the hub. But now somebody from Print Lab, the partner organization that worked with Makers Making Change, they reached out to me because they're doing I had never heard of this, but they're doing the Makeable Assistive Technology Challenge in partnership with Autodesk. It's something they do every year. And so they've invited me to be a judge for this year's competition.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so that's happening it's actually already happening. It's coming to a close in mid-May. So just there might be some interesting connections there as well.
That's great.
Yeah, because those are some big, between Makeable and Autodesk and Print Lab and Makers Making Change. I mean, there's a really interesting group of organizations there focusing on assistive technology.
Yeah, there's a whole community of sort of like higher level community of the organizations themselves. I feel like could be meeting or at least
Yeah.
communicating on some level to
Yeah.
try to coordinate efforts. And it's that higher level collaboration that I'm primarily interested in, seeing how we can work that out. But yeah, Chad brought up PrintLab also. It's a UK based company.
That's
They
right.
make 3D design training opportunities in the UK that they've just sort of made exportable wherever. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is that the We Are Print Lab Assistive Device Academy? Is that what you're referring to?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. Let's see. So Stan Hudson is a former professor of mine. He is a health policy wonk up in Wisconsin. He currently works at a nonprofit that is dedicated to expanding health literacy at policy levels in national, state, and local government. He also is interested in making sure that there are policies that require accessible health language in health technology and health products. So for example, something he's currently working on is trying to make a standardized prescription labeling system that is easier for people to understand. The reason I reached out to him is that I am very interested in working, well, first of all, expanding the number of clinicians in our network beyond just me and a couple of OTs to include more prosthetists and physicians and therapists of all stripes. But Tainara and I have been kicking around some ideas for establishing some care guidelines that would be the expected standard for anyone who delivers a device through e-NABLE. In terms of like ensuring continuity of care, making sure there's follow-up, providing surveys to get pre and post functional assessments so that we have some actual data and we can improve how we are, if we're going to be making any kind of impact in people's lives, making sure that it's a positive one. And we can't do that without collecting the data. So Stan, I'm hoping will be able to work with us to better define how we can communicate those guidelines, especially when language and other barriers might present themselves. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there for some interesting conversation. I'm really going to try to blast the rest of this list quickly. Nate with Koala, he is one of the founders, I believe, of Koala, which is a soft socket prosthesis company. I don't know if they make the terminal devices themselves. I know they have the attachment and the soft wraps that are used in place of like the hard plastic or whatever material, silicone liners that are used in traditional prosthetics. It's really interesting stuff. And boy, when I saw that, I never even considered something like that before. My eyes just lit up when I thought of the possibilities for cheaply manufacturing things to send to the developing world. There's a lot that could be done there.
John and I did meet with them. I don't know, it was probably a year and a half or 2 years ago, at least at this point. And we met with Nate and his partner, and really nice guys. And I think
they have to be.
Yeah, they've come a long way since then, I think. But I know we had talked about trying to get our hands on one of their socket devices, their flexible sockets, and so that we could start looking at modifying some of our designs to be able to attach to their connection points. And it never came to fruition, but if you do reconnect with them, let's see if we can maybe get them to send a couple our way so that we could work on tying our devices in.
I think he'd be another good one to speak at a town hall or a one-off meeting. He did offer in the hub in a post to make the attachment mechanism open source so that people can just start printing that. Obviously he's not offering to give away the devices,
of course, to
open source because and I wouldn't want him to, but the fact that the attachment could be made available could really open up a lot of doors to using that soft socket. I don't know if the socket is the right word, but sort of, I don't know if there's a good word for it actually.
Yeah, I don't either, but it really was interesting to me because I've worked with a couple of people, excuse me, and I have another one now that a prosthetist came to me about helping that where they have, there's still some residual swelling in their sort of their palmar
Yeah.
anatomy, and it can make it really challenging when you put one of our devices on them. It ends up being way too large for their body. And this would, I think something like this would work much better, where you could just
Yeah.
and
You
then
know,
put an attachment on.
a couple of other things, in addition to the swelling problem, but just, getting new amputees used to the concept of using a new device
Yeah.
to replace their missing limb. That's something that you really can't do immediately post surgery.
Right.
Because it takes a while in traditional fabrication to make a socket, and B, because it's not safe. It can
Right.
break open the wound. Something like this could really acclimate someone to the concept. And there are some hard prosthetics that are safer and are just like simple, simple devices to do that now. But I think
Yeah.
this would be a really interesting step in the right direction to make that more ubiquitous.
Yeah.
The other person that I'm hoping to reach out
Hang
to.
on one second, Adam. I think John wanted to jump in.
I'm sorry, John.
No, I just wanted to say I agree. I think they're great people. They've got a fantastic product, which is a natural match for our devices. And so, I've been pinging him every year or two since I met him in Berlin and London a few years ago. I think it's a great relationship to develop. Give him my regards.
Sure. Feel free to send me to Berlin and London so I can see if I can track him down. One other person.
In that context, Adam, I want to say, if you're ready to go on an April trip to Berlin and London, all you have to do is ask. I think what you're doing is just right. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. I think there are a lot of.
I don't want you to burn yourself out, but I want you to recognize that we have resources available to.
I appreciate that. I think there are a lot of big opportunities in Monaco and Osaka, and let's see, where else? Where else do I want to go? I mean, oh shoot, where do I need to? No, that's great. I appreciate the offer. So really quickly, Valentini Sumalini is the therapies director for the International Red Cross of East Africa. I hesitated even putting her on this list because she hasn't yet responded. But I decided to add it here because I want to note that I really think the WHO and ICRC will be really great resources for identifying new targeted relief opportunities. So that is an area that I'm going to be devoting some time specifically in the months ahead. The rest of these things are really just one-off things, not quite as detailed. Afghan initiative, we're right on the cusp of being ready to test our shipping line. Joliet chapter, who posted in the hub this week, offered to print some devices. I met with them on Wednesday, and they are really excited to help out. There's some others who have reached out and are offering to send some hands specifically for the AOTA conference. So I just wanted to put out there, thank you to everyone who has offered to help in that way. Actually, let me make sure I can call people out specifically and give them their due credit. But I really do appreciate that people are stepping in and helping out with this, because there's no way that I can get these things done without the community's support. So Christopher Applegate of the Louisville chapter, he reached out to me and offered to assist with providing a Phoenix hand. Then Arjun Shah is going to be sending, he's with the Forsyth County chapter. They're printing and assembling a hand specifically for the AOTA conference to my specifications, which I really appreciate because I was being finicky about it. So thank you to everyone, including the Joliet chapter, of course, for your help here, because that's tremendous. And obviously my job is writing checks that other people cash. And I fully recognize that fact. So I really, really do rely on you all, to anyone listening to this after the fact. And it's, this community, letting me steer some efforts, I hope that will be the benefit to the benefit of the entire community. So thank you.
No doubt.
Speaking of new community initiatives, the ATPs, the ATP program that I mentioned earlier, I still want to, I'm going to put out another call for state champions on the hub, I think at the beginning of next week. I really do want to have a chapter or rep for every state eventually. I want that maintained. I'm going to set a personal goal of getting 15 by the end of the summer, whenever that is. I think that's achievable. But right now we've got Illinois, we've got Missouri, and I think we've got Texas settled. So that's just 12 more that we need to get over the next 6 months or so. So I think we can totally get that done. But I'd like to sort of establish a little bit of a protocol and some standards of communication to ensure that we're, you know, representing ourselves well and actually providing service and not just checking a box. To that end, Scout Mary, who's the lead of the Missouri ATP, he is really excited because they just got their first 3D printers a couple of weeks ago, and they are exploring some possibilities there. No one at the Missouri leadership team has a lot of experience with 3D printing. I invited him to join the hub and share some of the issues that he's having some extruder problems. Things are getting stuck in the extruder and he's not able to clear it out easily. So I invited him to share some pictures and seek some guidance, because obviously, for those of you who don't know, I am nearly completely ignorant about the ins and outs of 3D printing itself. So anyone who can help Scout, I think he's one of the neatest guys, kindest, and most interesting guys I've ever talked to. So I encourage you to communicate with them. Speaking of the AOTA conference, that's the American Occupational Therapy Association conference, coming up in just 3 weeks. I am ordering, I finally settled on design, ordering business cards. Hopefully they get here in time for the conference, but I'll be submitting a request for reimbursement for those, just as a heads up. But I'm really excited to share what e-NABLE is doing out and about with some people in the world. There are going to be leaders and representatives from major rehab organizations, teaching hospitals, health IT companies from all over the US. It's in Kansas City, where I live, which is why I decided to go, because obviously the bar was quite a bit lower than some conferences that are happening in the spring. It's conference season right now, so there are, you know, events happening all over the place. But this one I felt like was particularly aligned with what we wanted to do in the coming couple of years in terms of partnering with clinicians and expanding our footprint. And I think that this is a way to kind of elevate our brand a bit, if you will.
You know what
so
I hadn't
hopefully-
thought of before this, but we should get you some e-NABLE shirts too. I don't know if you've had. Yeah,
I didn't think of that either. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Let me follow up with you on that afterwards, because we actually
Okay.
sell them through our shop, and so we can get
Sweet.
them ordered for you out of the
Oh
e-NABLE.
yeah, that's a great idea. Man, I should have thought of that. Okay, cool.
No, we can get some. Just actually tell me now, what size shirt do you wear? What size t-shirt?
Extra large because of
Let me-
COVID. Used to
Let me
be
just
large.
get a couple for you. And do me a favor, just after the meeting, email me your address so I know where to ship them.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
Okay. And if you don't mind, I
Thank
want to
you.
go back real quick on the assistive technology
course.
programs. I just wanted to put a thank you out there, because that was the first one that we launched, was for the Illinois assistive technology
Oh, yeah.
program, to invite our volunteers to print the devices in their catalog. And one of our representatives over there at the IATP, her name is Courtney. She was kind enough to actually post in the hub to say that they received the first donation, and she thanked Alexander and Clinice White for sending them a whole bunch of printed devices. So I want to thank both those volunteers who did the printing, and also thank Courtney for giving us that feedback and letting us know that the program is starting to work. It was exciting to see that.
Yeah, definitely. No, that was awesome, and I'm hoping that we'll start getting more, more people. What I really want to challenge people to do and encourage people to do is, as they're printing, take video, take photos. Because leading into this is my push to establish more of a social media presence for e-NABLE.
Yes.
I created an e-NABLE group on LinkedIn. They know an official e-NABLE org. Actually, e-NABLE now has one employee, somebody who looks like a biomedical engineering student, listed themselves as an employee of e-NABLE, and I think they're a member of the hub. But just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
So that's great. I encourage people to join that on LinkedIn if you haven't already, or at
Someone
least follow it.
I just wanted to say someone has
Hey,
reached
Sarah.
out to me. Hi. Here, I'll turn my video on. Someone has reached out to me on LinkedIn as well, asking about it. So I will respond to their message, but that was exciting. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
So
tell
it's
you that,
working.
Adam.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm going to make a post every week, at least once a week. And I just wanted to get this group's permission to do that. I was going to run a few by just via email, off the call, but the scope and content. I want it to be really focused. I don't want to just like put stuff out there for the sake of putting stuff out there. I'd really like to, announce our presence at upcoming events and, share photos and videos. I really would love members of the community to share more multimedia stuff, so that we can, kind of package that up and raise our profile with it.
I think
And
that's
also
great,
call out-
Adam. I think number one, you're exactly the right person to be handling that platform, and I also think it's the perfect platform for the kind of connections you're trying to make.
I agree.
So I would encourage you to keep the posts oriented towards, opportunities for partnering with other organizations and people in the medical community. Stay on that, what you're already working on. I think that's the right platform for that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I thought so too. I think TikTok, provided it isn't banned in the coming months, would be another good one. But just because what 3D printing is so visual.
Yeah.
And
I think that could be a good one for kind of getting the word out to the general community about,
Yep.
Hey, we're here, we can help. Whereas LinkedIn might be better for making those strategic connections.
Yeah, I think that's in terms of fundraising and getting new members, especially like college students, having some kind of TikTok presence will be important.
Yeah.
And if TikTok again dissolves, whatever the next Vine successor is,
Exactly.
will be. I still miss Vine. It still hurts me that it's not around anymore. But anyway, the last one. Speaking of social media and sort of mixed communications, I used to have podcasts. I mean, I'm a white guy, a white middle-aged guy, so of course I had a podcast. But the focus of it was ergonomics back in my days as an industrial ergonomist. But I thought it was pretty good. And in the early COVID days, I bought a bunch of equipment to facilitate that. I wanted to float the idea of having a podcast for e-NABLE that released on, maybe a monthly basis. This would be maybe an opportunity to interview some of the folks that we've been reaching out to, do chapter spotlights and people who are doing interesting work around the world. I thought it might be, really short form content, 5 to 15 minutes, somewhere in there. And
it's a wonderful idea, Adam. Would you be willing to sort of host those and do the interviewing?
Oh, shucks, sure, I'll do it.
I mean, I think you're the right one for it. And if you're willing, because I think that's the only thing standing in our way of, why we haven't done it sooner. We just need somebody that's going to kind of take the lead on that. If you need any help with the infrastructure side, I already have a membership on podcast on PodServe FM. I already have a membership on Riverside FM if you wanted to do video podcasting. But if you want to do audio only, that's not even needed. So
well, as my drama teacher told me in high school, I've got a face for radio. So maybe just the pure audio side would work.
Yeah.
But...
So that would be, I think, really a helpful thing to do. And I think there would be a lot of interest in that. And especially now that we're broadening the scope beyond just the prosthetics and getting into these other assistive technology things, there sure is a lot to talk about and get people excited about.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm excited about it too. I think that this warrants a little bit of planning and discussion instead of, this is one area where I might not jump in feet first.
Of course.
But
Adam,
No,
my
please.
training is in radio reporting.
Oh my gosh, of course.
I, used to do feature stories for Minnesota's NPR affiliate, and I know how to audio edit and throw together a podcast.
Oh, good Lord. Awesome.
Good audio editing software is expensive.
Yeah.
And editing audio well, when you listen to podcasts, when it sounds like just a normal conversation, it has been highly, highly edited, and hours and hours and hours of work have
Yeah.
gone into that. So just something
I
to
didn't even,
keep.
Sarah, I apologize. I didn't even think about that, but of
Yeah.
course you'd be the expert here. You know, I used Audacity
Okay.
for my short-lived podcast.
Okay.
And I'm very familiar with how difficult it is
Yeah.
by virtue of how poor the outcome usually was. So
Well,
please, yeah.
I use Adobe Audition. I think that's the
Nice.
most, it's expensive, but it's user friendly, and you can sort of do the most with editing to get the best result. So if you want to talk about that,
And do you already have a license that you would be able to use for that, Sarah, if you did that?
I haven't used it in my last audio client. I edited my last podcast for them a few months ago, so it's expired, but
Well, I do have a license to the full Adobe Creative
Oh,
Suite, which I believe
okay.
includes that. So if you'd like to use
Nice.
mine, we can probably arrange that.
But yeah, I've just we should talk about that, and I
Oh, that's really
yeah.
exciting, man. We could actually, you know, produce it instead of
Yeah.
slapping it out there. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
All right,
Oh,
yeah,
man,
let's
that's
see if we
really
can figure out a
exciting.
way to make that work. I don't know if there's a way to add somebody on my account. I have to look into that, but let's see if I can help you with that, Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you know, and Sarah, if you wanted to host it with me or host instead of me,
No,
then
I
just
think
say the word. But
I mean, I'm happy to co-host. Adam, you make a great host. I don't want to take that away from you, but I'm happy to like work with you on putting it together and editing and producing also.
okay, cool.
So,
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Let's hammer out the details offline. I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it sounds like a meeting between you two would be worthwhile.
Cool. Yeah, I love that.
Great. Well, anything else that you wanted to share, Adam?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think. I've got a couple of things coming up next week, but I will say that next week's updates will be a lot lighter than this one. This just happened to be a really e-NABLE heavy fortnight for me.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, for those of you, if you're still on the call or new members, it's not usually quite this much for me. But no, thank you for the time, Jeremy.
No problem at all. It's wonderful work that you're doing as always, Adam. It's really exciting stuff. So thanks for all the updates. I'm going to go. John, go ahead.
Adam, my only caution is that if all of these things come right at the same time, you're going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so keep an eye out for the possibility that there are, I'm looking at you, Timmy and Amy, student interns, for example, who could be involved in some of these activities in a way that reduced rather than increased the amount of work you had to do. Just keep an eye out for that. You're doing absolutely terrific. We don't want you to overheat.
I
curious,
appreciate that, John.
Timmy and Amy, what is the arrangement that you have with your instructor at school? Is this something that's entirely volunteer for you, or is there any way of getting credit for the work that you're doing here?
So currently it's part of our class curriculum, and we've been working on it for like the past 3 or 4 weeks, printing out the hands and assembling them. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of our mechanical engineering course here at school. I think one of the units was just about like prosthetics, and this happened to be an opportunity that we saw and decided to run with it.
Got it. Wonderful. Okay, well, I'm going to go back here. Sarah, we skipped over last week. We had to skip the post from the hub because we just didn't have time. And this week, I again skipped it because I wanted to make sure Adam had time to go all through that. So we were going to come back to this. And now we're left with just under 10 minutes, which is not even going to be enough time to go through these. So
yeah,
do you want to maybe call attention to any one of these in particular? And maybe we can go through some of the others next time?
I mean, we could just go in order. We could just do this week. There were only I think I added 4, and we should be able to address the post from this week pretty quickly. But I also had a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Is that okay before we?
Well, let's do that first then. Yes, please.
Okay. So, I have left Minnesota and I will be traveling around the country for the next few months. Excuse me. And I spoke to John about this, but I'm in Portland today and on my way to Eugene this afternoon, and I'll be in Seattle next week. I reached out to Portland and Seattle e-NABLE chapters. I don't know how active they are. I haven't gotten a response, but if there's any opportunity for meeting face to face with people that you guys think of as I travel, just let me know.
There definitely should be in Portland, Sarah. We have a very good friend there named Shashi Jain, who is the leader of the Portland chapter last I checked, and also runs a very large kind of maker group there that goes way beyond just what we do in e-NABLE. But he's a great guy, and I've connected with him out there in person, and they do events and things. So I can send you his contact info. Like, he'd be a good one to reach out to.
Send me his contact info. I'm leaving today, but I'll be back just for Sunday evening and Monday morning. So if there's something that can happen in there.
Yeah, I'll send you. I think all I have is an email, but I'll send you what I have.
Okay. And then
let me just jump in. I suggested to Sarah that we authorize her to meet people over a meal, and that we will reimburse reasonable meals for these encounters with enabled people.
I think that's a great idea. So
a little bit.
for the new members in here, we do have a policy where this group here, whoever happens to be here on any given week, does have the authority to approve up to $1,000 in discretionary spending from the e-NABLE fund. So I'd say let's just come up with some limit for this. What do you think is for Sarah's travels? Should we just say anything up to a total of $500? I know it won't get close to that, but can we just go ahead and vote on meals that would be tied to meeting with other e-NABLE folks up to $500? Let's just go ahead and take a vote. I say yes. Anyone else? Yes, I see yes from Rick, yes from John. Timmy and Amy, you guys get a vote too. Thumbs up from Timmy. Amy, feel free to use chat. There you go. Thumbs up. Okay, it's unanimous. So you're approved. Obviously, use your discretion. I know you won't go beyond what you need to, Sarah, but you're covered.
Great, thank you. So I will I will reach out today. If you can send that contact information, and thank you so much. This is great. This will be,
you got it.
This will be wonderful. And then next week I'll be in Seattle. So if anyone comes to mind there.
Well, it would have been Jen Owen, one of our co-founders, but she happens to be down in Arizona right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But and then the last thing is tomorrow is April. So I just wanted to touch base about the April calendar and newsletter. So the first event of April is the 10th with the chapter leaders roundtable, and then the 14th, the combined education and new member meetup, and Ian will give an update on NIH printing collaboration. And then the 28th will be the bionic design meeting, and that is to be determined for topic. This month's bionic design meeting was wonderful. It was a special meeting. It was not recorded. It was very well attended, and a very lively and interesting presentation on osseointegration. So
I had a question about that actually. I wasn't able to be part of it. I'm not used to seeing e-NABLE meetings not recorded. We try to be as transparent as we can. Was that somebody's request?
Yes, it was the presenter requested that it not be recorded. Newer technology. He showed footage from of recipients and of the process of making osseointegration work, and he requested that it not be recorded. it was also a meeting that was advertised as not recorded, was very, very well attended. So
Yeah, Sarah has the theory that it was well attended because people had to attend or miss the big event. So there's a potential lesson for us in there that we can discuss.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to go over, Sarah?
No, that's it.
Okay, well, I don't think we're gonna get far here. I'll just pull up a couple of these posts and see what we can get to, but I am gonna have to kind of cut us off at the top of the hour here.
While you're pulling it up, Sarah, Adam gave even more of a presentation than you heard, and in the earlier part of his presentation, he named a number of people who would be good presenters at future meetings. So you should catch them at video and compare notes with Adam.
I will do that. And actually, that one more thing about the calendar newsletter. Is there anything that anyone would like me to highlight?
Well, if I can find the details for this, the challenge that I mentioned with Autodesk, the assistive technology challenge, it sounds like it's still going on. So maybe we could share that. I'll have to look into it to see if there's still time for people to join in on that. But if it is, I'll send you the details.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have something for the newsletter? Okay, well, the first email I pulled up here is a question that we get quite a lot, which is basically, I've got some devices that I printed. Where can I send them? How can I get them to people? This is a challenge that we're still trying to work on. We used to have a collection and distribution point, never really came to full fruition. We still need to figure that out. We don't know if we can effectively establish a system for gathering devices that have not really been customized for anyone in particular and get them to people who can actually make use of them. It's a little tricky because somebody needs to inventory them, do quality checks, keep track of what we have and their, what materials, what sizes, etc. And then, we need the logistics to get them to the people that might need them. And then, of course, somebody on the other end needs to be able to, fit them, customize them, etc. We just haven't figured out all the pieces to that. So as of now, I regularly get people emailing not only the e-NABLE help desk, but also at 3D Universe saying, hey, where can I send devices? And I just don't have a good answer for them right now. So I don't think we have time to get into it today, but that's something that we'll have to talk about in an upcoming meeting and see if we can get that back on track.
And I know we don't have time, but maybe a storage unit would be something that e-NABLE could pay for. That I don't know, I'm just spitballing.
Sure. I don't think the physical space is the limitation as much as finding people who are willing to do the cataloging and QA, inventorying and all that. Let's see, new chapter from e-NABLE Venezuela. And they're sharing some pictures of somebody they want to help, which looks like it's not going to be a standard device. This is probably somebody that will need multiple finger devices, but they still have, it looks like, one good segment of those fingers intact, so they need partial fingers. Do we have a partial finger device currently? I'm not aware of one. Anyone know?
Well, there's the Nick finger.
Right, but that's a full finger. Is that something that can be customized for just the outer two segments that you know of?
I don't know why not. And I think they're working on it now. I gave them a few thoughts and they're proceeding.
Okay, good. Oh, I see that here. Yes, you responded. I got a comment from Thierry also with a similar device that maybe, let's see what he's recommending here. Oh, I can't get to it. Okay, well, they've got some good suggestions. I'm going to see if I can get to one or two more here. Thierry also has a device request, it looks like. Is anyone in contact with e-NABLE Tunisia? We have a device request in Tunisia, but can't seem to get an answer from them. Adam responded, Rick responded, Jones. We've tried to contact this chapter several times. Okay, so I guess this is for you, Rick. Might be one to, it looks like you've already tried to reach out. That might be time to think about putting them in inactive status. Looks like multiple people have tried to get a hold of them with no success. And let's go on to one more here. Daniel, hand resources. Southside Middle School, making the Phoenix hand. And if anyone is interested in the hand or has any resources, again, somebody looking at what they can do with this hand. So I will mention, I mean, I don't know how effective it is. One resource that we do have is on e-NABLE Web Central. We have a device inventory, and you can go to this. You don't even need to be signed in to access it. This is where you can post devices that you have made that are available for anybody to request. We've had pretty good usage as far as people putting devices in here. As you can see, we've had very, very poor usage in terms of people requesting these devices. I don't know if any of these have actually been requested. So it is a mechanism we have available. I don't think it's working too well, but it's kind of all we can offer right now.
Jeremy, I think that kind of goes back to visibility and making sure e-NABLE is a known resource among like physicians and
agreed.
clinicians. So
we are in the process of sort of moving towards a new matching platform that may replace e-NABLE Web Central. So we'll have to think about how we can maybe bring this over and house it there instead if we want to continue with that. But by the way, I do have a volunteer that responded to my request on the hub actually for two things. I put out a request for an Azure consult, and I got an affirmative reply on that. So I think it was Alberto Novato is going to help me out there. We have a meeting scheduled for after I return from my travels. And I also got a positive response looking for help with the new matching platform and website from Morgan. I don't remember his or her last name, but we have a meeting also scheduled for after my travels. So really excited to get a response on both of those so we can get moving forward. Jen Owen, one of our co-founders, put together a really nice thank you note on the hub after all of the students, including Timmy and Amy here, introduce themselves. So if you guys haven't seen that, be sure to check it out. It was a really nice message that Jen wrote up to sort of all the excitement of what she's seeing with how far we've come in 10 years and the work that we're doing. Christoph, Disability Solution, and this is probably going to be the last one I can do today. I'd like to show you our solution for specific disabilities. We're asked to prepare a solution for a child who has no forearm and only one finger below the elbow. So they made a 3D scan of the limb, and based on that, they did a personalized overlay on the finger. Very cool. Let me see if I can pull up a photo here on my limited bandwidth. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. Okay, so it's basically just something that goes over. It looks like a very nice custom fit, and then it looks like it allows them to put different types of utensils and or other attachments in there. It's a very creative solution, and that certainly looks like it would be functional. I mean, I'm imagining that he would definitely be able to, you know, eat a bowl of cereal and things like that he probably would have really struggled with before. That's wonderful. Yeah, so I wonder if they shared. I guess in this case it wouldn't do much good to share that because it was completely based on a custom 3D scan, but the approach is definitely one that might be duplicated. So I wonder if they'd be able to write up sort of how they did it and kind of walk us through their process. Very cool though. Thank you for sharing that, Christoph. I am going to have to cut us off here. So what I'm going to do is I will just mark the ones here that we did have time to look at, and we will leave the rest of them on here for next time. Anybody else have anything real quick before we wrap up today's meeting? Okay, well, thank you all for joining. Special thanks to our new members, Timmy and Amy. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we have that new member meetup coming up third Friday of next month. So hopefully you'll be able to join that as well. And I'll see everyone next week at the next town hall. Thanks all.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Well done, everybody.
Thank you, guys.